Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. In today's video we're going to look at getting started with the Soulblight Gravelords in Age of Sigmar Warcry using the Crimson Court warband from Warhammer Underworlds as a starting point to build up a full functional 1000 point warband afterwards. The Crimson Court is a warband of Soulblight vampires. The court fancy themselves an aristocratic band of hunters, and should they manage to contain their bloodthirst, they almost manage to resemble one. The Crimson Court exists for the thrill of the hunt. They travel to Beastgrave almost by chance, but the variety of intriguing prey has held their attention ever since. Prince Duvalle himself claims to be a scion of the famous Von Faine dynasty. Whatever the truth of this boast, however, so far no one has dared challenge it. He is a sadistic and skilled warlock along with a talented warrior. Today's video is sponsored by Gap Games, a fantastic miniature wargaming store in Queensland, Australia. They stock a wide variety of miniature wargames from all things Games Workshop to some of my personal favourites, Conquest of the Last Argument of Kings, and all things Modifius wargames as well. Use our affiliate code in the link below to help support both this fantastic store and the channel as well. And so, leading our box set is Prince Duvalle. This is a vampiric leader for the Soulblight Gravelords. You got 4 attacks at strength 4 with 2/6 on the damage, which is really nice. A super high crit value damage there. And with 4 attacks, you're likely to get 1 or so every time you attack, which is really cool. You've got defense 4 and 26 wounds as well, making him pretty solid as well as offensively good as well. Now you do have a large variety of different abilities. The first of these is Finished Lure, and this is a double that is specific to Prince Duvalle himself, where until the end of the battle round you add 1 to the damage points allocated by each hit and critical hit from attack actions made by friendly fighters that target an enemy fighter within 6 inches of this fighter, as he sort of beguiles and stares into the soul and transfixes his enemies, which is pretty cool. Now you've got a double for Thrill of the Hunt as well. This is an ability that's going to be available to all the members of the Crimson Court, where if the next attack action made by this fighter, this activation targets an enemy fighter with any damage points allocated to them, you add 2 to your attacks and strength. So being able to sort of put some damage on and then bring in one of your big hitters, which are the vampires of the Crimson Court, is really nice. Now we have other abilities as well. Call of the Crimson Feast, another leader ability we have access to thanks to Prince Duvalle, where until the end of the battle round we add 1 to the attacks of melee actions made by friendly fighters within 6 inches of him, which is really nice. And then he goes into some of the more generic abilities of being a Soulblight Gravelord, with summon undead minions, allowing us to bring back our minion fighters for the warband. We've also got Thirst for Blood, a ability that's going to be available to vampires of the Soulblight Gravelords. This allows them, if they take down enemy fighters, to essentially regain some wounds. And then you've got, you know, just your generic abilities along with this, making him a very versatile, very powerful fighter to lead your force. After him, we then have Gorath the Enforcer. Now this is another vampire, so it's going to be able to heal when it takes down enemy fighters, but also we do have a 3/6 damage characteristic, although with only 2 attacks, it's unlikely we are going to spike too much and get too many crits out of this fighter. Defense 4 and 18 wounds though for 130 for a non-hero fighter is fairly solid, especially when we do have the ability to heal and we've got the ability in different ways to sort of boost our attacks and strength. This would definitely be one of the models that really benefits from having you wound an enemy first and then send them in to get all those bonuses off. Next is Anias Curseborn. Now, this is one of the more interesting fighters in the Crimson Court, besides obviously Prince Duvalle. You got defense 3 and 16 health. However, you have the fly rune mark here, so this gives you a fairly solid fighter that can ignore all vertical movement and fly around the battlefield. You got 4 attacks at strength 3 with 1/4 on the damage. 4 attacks is nice. You've got the chance that you're going to get a crit in there to really boost up the damage of this fighter. But once again, you know, 4 attacks with that 1/4 really starts to look a lot nicer when all of a sudden it becomes 6 attacks. You can boost up that strength as well and really start making this fighter do some serious work for his points cost. Vellas Von Faine is the last member of the Crimson Court we have, and she does have a nice attack profile as well. 4 attacks at strength 3 only, but 1/5 on the damage is a really big swing on the critical damage value for her. She does have defense 4 there as well, which is nice with the 16 wounds, generally meaning your opponent's having to throw 2, if not 3 rounds of attacks into the fighter to really try and take them out, unless they are, you know, sort of that uber tier fighter. But all in all, she's very solid. For 105 points, I think she's almost point for point the most worth it of any member of the Crimson Court. She's going to do a lot of work, and if you can get those attacks up and start getting those crits swinging for it, she's going to do real big work. And so where to go after for the Crimson Court? And for me, the big thing we want to bring in is bring in some minions so we can start summoning them back to the battlefield. This is going to allow us to get those sort of attacks in to just put a point of damage or two onto an enemy and allow the Crimson Court to come in after and really deal the damage. Now the first one of these fighters we're going to look at is the Skeleton Champion with Mace. Now this is, just a generic sort of skeleton fighter. There isn't too much to write home about with. You got defense 4 and 12 wounds, 4 attacks at strength 3 with 1/3 on the damage. However, with the Skeleton Champion, you are going to have a few cool abilities you're going to be able to use. The first is Shambling Horde, where a fighter can only use this ability if they win 6 inch of a visible friendly fighter with the hero and Soulblight rune marks, and they can make a bonus move in a number of inches equal to the ability. This is pretty cool because you do have a fairly slow model here with just that base move of 3, so a double to really increase that movement is super nice, especially since that bonus move will be free. We've got other abilities as well that are going to trigger on these fighters, and the most important one here is Chosen Champion. This is a pretty cool quad that really can make this fighter do so much more work than what its points cost says. You can only use this if you're within 6 inch of a visible friendly fighter that's got hero and Soulblight Gravelord's rune marks. However, you get to make a bonus attack action and add half the value of the ability, rounding up to the attacks and strength. Obviously, you're really only going to want to use this if you are going to have like a quad 5 or quad 6. That does mean your attacks are going to go up to 7 attacks at strength 6, so really putting in some work there. After that, we look at just some basic skeletons. Now, there are 2 types of skeletons you can have, and the reason I've gone with spears here is I do like the games we can play with them of not having to directly engage with that 2 inch range. The fact we've got that 2 inch range means we can stay outside of that inch and a bit, so our opponent can't attack us back. They have to make a move and then attack. And we've got defense 4 and 8 wounds. If this is just a generic sort of fighter, they're probably going to have to put both attacks in us, and so there's every chance they don't kill us unless they start spiking crits. Now, the 2 attacks is a problem, but we really are only going for 1 hit to get through on these fighters to enable the Crimson Court to come in and do the damage for us. And then the other minions we're going to look to bring in are the Barrow Guard with White Blade and Crypt Shield. Now, these are cheaper and they do fill the points in that we have at the end of this list better, but defense 4 is why I like them. That 10 wounds is nice there as well. 3 attacks at strength 4, 1 on the damage. They're just going to provide us a little bit more damage, a little bit more stability than your regular skeletons, but not an awful lot more points. They are still minion fighters, which is really cool, so they're going to have the ability to be brought back, but more importantly as well, they do also have some other rune marks that are going to enable them to fight. They are that elite sort of fighter, and they're just going to be able to use some other abilities really nice for that more improved skeleton stat line. Lastly, we're going to look at the Necromancer, and the big reason we're bringing the Necromancer in is the abilities it's going to be able to use to help our minions. Now, we definitely do want a second hero fighter in a Soulblight warband. This is so we can have the undead minions constantly being replenished. Just having Prince Duvalle puts a massive target on it by himself, and so having another fighter able to use that summon undead minions means he's not, the fight isn't over as soon as he's removed. We're not going to stop being able to summon back our little minions. Now, the Necromancer also does provide us with something interesting in the form of a ranged attack. Yes, it's only 3 to 7 inch range, but that 7 inches can be really useful for just dealing that point of damage that we need to get out there on the enemies to allow the Crimson Court to get those bonuses. Now, we do have some other abilities that the Necromancer is going to be able to use. Necrotic Siphon is a double where it can essentially heal itself from nearby enemy minions, sort of sucking out their life force and restoring itself. But the big one we're going to have more than anything is going to be Van Hels's Dance Macabre. This is a quad ability where we get to pick a number of visible friendly fighters with the Soulblight Gravelords, faction rune mark, and a minion rune mark around this fighter, and each of those models can make a bonus move or bonus attack, and you can mix and match those moves and attacks as you want. This really gives us sort of a good force of the minions and can let them do so much more work than they would normally be able to do, especially for such cheap models. They can really punch above their weight with this. And so our warband is going to consist of our two heroes, which will be Prince Duvalle and the Necromancer. We're then going to have the rest of the members as our fighters of the Crimson Court: Gorath the Enforcer, Annias Curseborn, and Vellas Von Faine. While we'll then start going to other fighters, having the Skeleton Champion with Mace, along with two Barrow Guard with White Blades and Crypt Shields, and finally two more Skeleton Warriors with Ancient Spears. We hope that this video was helpful in getting you started with Warhammer Age of Sigmar Warcry, and that I was able to give you some ideas and inspiration to start your own force in the game. If you have any other questions at all, please comment them down below and we'll endeavour to get back to you. And while you're there, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and join our Discord server as well, linked in the video's description, for all our future Warhammer Age of Sigmar Warcry content.